My reflections over the last year with regards to anti-racism and the Black Lives Matter movement is one of hope. I think we are hopeful that now things will move forward in a way that they've never moved forward before. There's been a lot of talk, there's been some action over the years, but we've never really seen anything like this for a long time.
So some of my reflections from the past year are, I think, the conversation around racism and the inequality, it's becoming normalised now, which is kind of the first step that needed to be took, because I think for a while it was like a bit of a taboo subject. And I think after George Floyd's murder, it kind of like created this like open space to talk about it. It still is kind of uncomfortable for certain people, but for a lot of people, they feel comfortable to actually have that conversation.
Over time, we've sort of had raised consciousness within society over instances like this. So, you know, the death of Stephen Lawrence, you know, the murder of Anthony Walker, we've all experienced times when consciousness has been raised and people have been motivated and committed to take action. I think what happened this time with the death of George Floyd, there was a global consciousness, and despite us being in a pandemic, people wanted to take to the streets to show that enough is enough. So for me, this time, it really felt that everybody in the world was affected by this, not just black people.
Something I've personally picked up on is how desensitized I suppose that I am and my community are about seeing racism, about seeing injustice, seeing the traumas that we have to live through daily. I think people don't realise how desensitized we actually are to these things, but we're quick to share it on social media, which is an amazing tool for spreading awareness and letting people really understand the bigger picture of what is going on for black people across the world. But when you're seeing that lived out over and over again, you know, it's quite traumatic.
As a person of colour, I think since the past year, I feel a lot more empowered and a lot more confident to have difficult conversations, and I would really hope that the people that I surround myself with are people that do want to bring about change.
Within myself, I feel much more confident, I'd say. I can see more support around me, so I feel better about, you know, opening my mouth to speak on certain issues and pointing things out as and where I see it, because I know that I'm not the only person who's feeling these things, and I know that I'm not the only person trying to do something to tackle it. Much more hopeful about serious change, long-lasting change in the future.
I have noticed change. I've noticed a lot of change with organisations in terms of obviously visibility. Visibility has been a big thing, so you know, you'll be watching TV and all of a sudden there's just black faces everywhere, to the point where even I was thinking, all right then, don't go over the top. We see you, but what changes are you making within the organisation? Because I don't want, you know, I don't want to see faces. I want to see, you know, I want to see real change. I want to see change that's sustainable. I want to see your board of directors. I want to see your board of trustees. I want to see what impact you're actually making with the staff that work there.
The past 12 months for me, I found really difficult being the white parent of two mixed race children, because I don't understand what their lives are like. I don't understand what their adult lives will be like. We have all the conversations around racism, about how important it is for them to talk about instances of racism and to understand what racism is. I hope that in the future they don't have to have that conversation with their children.
So the most important thing about being an ally in this situation especially is the ability as white people to step back and give space for black voices. So for example, the campaign we did for Black History Month with Anthony Walker Foundation, we gave physical out-of-home space to black people, black voices, and allowed them to be heard. I think there's a huge difference between being an ally and being an active ally. And in this situation, I think being an active ally is really important, and you need to be comfortable with not saying anything and allowing space for black people.
What we're seeing right now, I think, is definitely long-term change, because the message that I'm hearing and the message that I'm feeling, the energy that I'm feeling, is that black people now have had enough. And I think for lots of black people seeing what happened to George Floyd, we felt it, because for a long time we've always felt quite choked. and you can't breathe and you think, am I going crazy? But actually to witness what happened to him and for everyone else to witness it, you go, this is what we were talking about. And it's sad that it took a black man to die in that manner for the world to see what black people have been going through globally.
So in order for us to see this long-term structural, cultural, behavioural change against racism and people becoming more actively anti-racist, this can't just be a tick box exercise. You can't just pay lip service to it. You have to fully want to learn about it, understand it, and take that action. And I think slowly but surely, that's what we're seeing in communities right across the globe. Communities of all different colours, communities of all different spectrums, and what's been so great to see is how communities have come together.